was now after 1 p.m. We had been on the road trying to get to Accra since 6 a.m. In addition to going to immigrations, we had also come down to do some shopping for my birthday party. The trip to the immigration office was another adventure of sorts. Even though we had been given a visa for 3 months, it was still necessary to fill out multi-copies of an immigration form, no carbon copies allowed, take new passport-sized photos in black and white only, submit a letter from Nan and Bra, the Omen Hen of Ogwa traditional area, in support of our wanting to stay in the country, and wait for approval of our request. We ran around like chickens with our head cut off, trying to accomplish everything before the office closed. Why is all of this necessary? We questioned the immigration officer. Our visa is valid for 3 months. It doesn't matter, he said. This is our policy, and you are foreigners. Ouch, I said to myself. Just the term foreigners were enough to make the hair stand up on the back of our necks. We're African people just like you, we said. So how could we be foreigners in Africa, the land of our ancestors? There's nothing I can do about that, he continued. If you want to stay in Ghana, this is what you will have to do. There was no such thing as dual citizenship. Not too happy with his answer, we completed our tasks, and by 5 o'clock, we were finally finished, at least for the moment. Whew! It had been some day. We did the rest of our shopping and returned to Cape Coast. It had been a real struggle, but I had made it home to Ghana in time to turn 50 in my ancestral homeland. On November 7th, 1991, I turned a half a century old, a precious gift from the Creator. That was one of the most memorable days of my life. It was my day. Sister Malika, a dear friend and Jazzy elder sister, and Queen Mother from Detroit, was the managing director of the Oyster Bay Hotel. She gave me a night's reservation with dinner and drinks as a birthday present. I had met her during one of my visits to Ghana, and we had become close friends. In fact, she, Nana, and I were the only Africans born in the United States that lived in the Cape Coast Elmina area, so naturally we gravitated to one another. That day we were all very happy, cracking jokes, laughing, talking with everyone we met, trying to speak the language. I even tried cooking Ghanaian food. Whew, what a disaster. Plus, we had been given our friend Kojo $5,000 to begin construction on our new house in Itri. We spoke to the lawyer and he was drawing up the papers, spelling out the terms of our agreement with Kwajo. He advised us to proceed with the project. Plus, Kojo was anxious to get started. If I said we were excited, I'd be grossly misrepresenting how we felt. We were going to have our own home in our ancestral homeland. Dreams did, in fact, come true. That afternoon, Mama D, Bongo Shorty, Nana, and I hung out in our village, Itri. We had a little birthday party with the children. They sang Fanti songs and we taught them songs from America and the Caribbean. Someone prepared fufu, a local dish made with cassava and ripe plantain, which was pounded in a mortar until it became a dough-like substance and was served with light soup. Other refreshments, chips and candy were served, nothing big, and the adults drank apateshi, the local hooch, or kill me quick, as it is called. I never understood how somebody could drink that, but in spite of all that, We had a wonderful time. Life in the village was so simple, but it was hard. There were no cars running up and down the place. The children could play freely, but many of them didn't go to school because their parents didn't have money for school fees. There was also no electricity, and people used kerosene lanterns and didn't seem to mind. There was no running water in individual homes. You had to go to the standpipe in the middle of the village where you paid to retrieve water. The cooking was done on a wood fire, for there was no gas. There was no gas stove, and most people slept on mats on the floor instead of foamed rubber mattresses. The children rose early in the morning and searched for firewood before going to school. Yet the people laughed so easily in spite of their troubles and sparse living conditions. Boy, were we spoiled living in the States. These wonderful people made this day a very memorable one. I looked forward to being able to do something that could help them in some way. Around 9 o'clock that evening, Nana and I left for my honeymoon birthday present at Oyster Bay Hotel. It had been a perfect day, and now we headed for a perfect night. My honey and I made sweet and gentle but passionate love that evening that floated me away on a cloud of bliss. Sweet memories of our past together and a promising outlook for our future warmed my body like a blanket as we cuddled up and drifted off to sleep. The next sound I heard was the thunder of the crashing waves on the shore and the sweet music of birds outside our window. The night excuse me. The night had faded and a new day had come. I was outside to greet the morning, watching the long boats sailing by with their multicolored flags from many nations flying in the wind. Boats powered by 40 horsepower motors and others powered by 8 strong black Africans moving their boats along with good, strong, precise strides as they sang, chanted, and mowed. As they sang, chanted, and rode. I reminisced about my first trip to Ghana in 1987 when I stood on this exact spot. A look at that day and a look at today on the same Atlantic coastline our ancestors were taken from. The Elmina Castle dungeons in Fort Jago loomed in the distance. I felt the pain of yesterday, the pain of the dark and damp dungeons, of living hell for our people, a new world for many and death for so many others. As I stood there absorbed by those memories, I cried, feeling the pain of yesterday and the joy of today. I gave thanks once again to the Creator and our ancestors for making it possible for me to be standing there and for the joy of coming home to Mother. After breakfast, Nana and I went back to Kwajo's house, where we were still staying until we found a place. Other arrangements were underway for my big 50 birthday bash. Everyone was excited. I was particularly ecstatic, as I had vowed with the help of the Creator that I would be back in Ghana permanently and in time to celebrate my 50th birthday. And here it was. Nana and Kwajo gave me the greatest party and celebration of my half a century observation. We were expecting a few people, according to our host, who knew everybody in town. And holding to his word, by midnight the house was overrun with people, most of whom I did not know. There must have been over 50 people at the party, and we danced and laughed, we ate, we drank until daylight. I didn't know half the people at the party, but it didn't make a difference to me. I had a fantastic time. I finally went to bed, making a difference to me. I had a fantastic time. I finally went to bed. People were still there, but I could no longer hang, and went to bed exhausted but happy. Following the birthday party, our days were busy, and we spent quite a lot of time in the village with Mama D and Bongo, and we continued to look for another place to stay. 2 weeks after my birthday, we had the groundbreaking ceremony for our new home in Africa. The Queen Mother from our village, Itri, and many of the people from the village were present for this most auspicious occasion. Libations were poured by the fetish priest, and traditional prayers offered up for our safe return and our new beginning. Photographs of our parents were buried in the foundation of our new home. It wouldn't be long now. Work had officially begun. All of us were excited about our new house. We even built a small hut on our land where we used to hang out while construction of our house was going on. More and more, even I was beginning to feel uncomfortable about staying in Kwajo's house, as certain things about the brother were being revealed to us. One day, a man from a community development agency came to the house to see us. He said that he had been in touch with Kwajo, who told him that we were his partners. Kwajo had borrowed 6 million cedis and had defaulted on the loan, and now they wanted us to repay it. We don't know anything about any loan, Nana said to the man, nor did we know that Kwajo borrowed any money against the business. We're not paying that. Next, we found out that the company had been registered, but our names had been omitted. We were told that our names would now be put on the papers, now that we were here, because it had been impossible to do it without us. Just a minute, Nana told Kwajo. You expect us to put our names on something that has 6 million CDs default, and you never discussed any loan with us? No way, my man. It don't work like that. I had spent another sleepless night, brought on by the shock, for want of a better word, of the actions being taken by Kwajo. With the passing of time, less and less did I want to be referred to him and some others as sister. But some of our dilemma I must blame on ourselves, for we were caught up in the excitement of returning home. Our romanticized notion of Africa clouded our vision, as did our acceptance by a brother who was so willing to help us and to share his home with us. He portrayed himself as a good friend, and as they say in Ghana, a good friend. And we were trusting and had taken him at his word. We forgot for a moment that business is business and friendship is friendship. And those business matters should have been spelled out in writing in advance before the release of our hard-earned cash. But this was now hindsight, and we were being burned again. The original contract had not been signed. Why is it being delayed by the lawyer? We asked Kwajo. You already have the funds that we've given to you without a signed contract. Kwajo reassured us. No other money will be necessary until the house was completed. But shortly thereafter, Kwajo came and told us, I'll need some additional money to continue the construction of your house. Well, what the hell happened? We asked him. Oh, the prices have gone up and your money that you have given me did not reach. I'm using the money to build your home. He was right. It was our house. So the argument did have some merit. Nana and I discussed it further, and although reluctantly, we agreed to give him the additional $5,000 to continue the work. Money was tight everywhere, and we were anxious to be in our own place, which was being promised by mid-February. And we were still trusting, but the alarm light began flashing, 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 as I remembered that we still had not signed the contract. And every time we approached him to sign it, he didn't have time, he was very busy with the house, and had many things to do. Don't worry, Sister Vienna. Don't worry, Nana. I will do it. Not to worry. And as if we didn't have enough on our plate, next Bongo and Mama D got sick with malaria. And then Nana got sick. Mama D continued to be sick, but Bongo and Nana got well. I also fell sick for a week with a severe attack of malaria. I thought I was going to die. It certainly felt that way. I had a high fever, chills, my body ached all over. I had no appetite and spent most of my time sleeping. And when I wasn't sleeping, I was puking my guts out. I didn't ever remember feeling so bad, except when I had the swine flu. Not being able to stand it any further, I literally crawled into the doctor's office, only to be greeted by this bright, smiling face of the doctor. As Nana explained my symptoms, the doctor instructed him to put me into the bed. Once settled, he said, "Welcome. You are officially home. You have malaria, but you'll be just fine after the medication begins to work. So go home and get some rest." When I was feeling better, Nana and I presented the contract to Kwajo again. By now, the light was flashing faster and faster in my mind, for I had met and spoken to a man who knew us and had asked, "Is everything in order? Have you gotten your contract signed?" "This is very important," he warned us. For contractors and friends acting as contractors have been known to take your money and leave your project unfinished. Feeling sick in my stomach, I immediately began to pray fervently, "Lord, please keep our brother's heart righteous and let us get this contract signed." Immediately, I rushed home and told Nana of the conversation that I'd had with this brother. By now, Nana had reached the end of his patience. "Oh, no problem," Kojo said again when we approached him for the fourth or fifth time. "We'll go to the Commission of Oaths in the morning." The next morning, he rushed out of the house. "I'll be back by 11 o'clock, he said. We waited and waited, papers in hands. Kwajo didn't come back until 3 p.m. When he came in, he was talking about the money we had already given him. "Nana, the $10,000 that you and Ima gave me is almost gone. It wasn't enough. I'm going to lose money in doing this job for you, my brother. And another 1.6 million CDs above the balance due of $6,500 is going to be necessary. Can you give me the balance of the money before the house is completed or the contract signed? We must have really looked like a bunch of jerks. Of course not, we lamented. To which he responded, well, I will go as fast as or as far as I can with what you've given me. And unless you give me the balance of the money, the house will not be finished. We argued and argued, but to no avail. He then called his lawyer, who gave us an appointment for us all to come together. I was livid. This nigger, as much as I hated the term, I used it loosely, was ripping us off, or should I say, had ripped us off. Where was the trust? I cried to Nana. What about brotherhood, love, honesty, and all the stuff we had reasoned about together? It was a crock of crap, and we had been taken for a good, expensive ride. If I had a gun, I would have killed that man. Fuck him, I thought, and his lawyer. But I also realized that this kind of attitude was going to get us nowhere. We agreed to go to the lawyer. When we arrived at the lawyer's office, Quadjo tried to make it sound as though he were helping us. I was trying to do them a favor in agreeing to build their house so cheaply in the first place, he said to his lawyer. Now it is going to cost me money, my own money, shaking his head and trying to look sorry. Because things had come and gone up, I want to change the original agreement. I want them to pay all now before I finish the house. No way, I said. But before we could continue, his lawyer wanted to know, what are their protections should you default on your agreement? The lawyer said, looking at Quadjo, trying to sound like he was on our side. I'll put up my trucks and deed to my house, which was not his, we ultimately found out. I only want to finish the job of appearing to appeal to us, but just ripping us off for them and to go out to my next project, he continued. The lawyer seemed to be in perfect sympathy with him. Well, he said, he's trying for you. It sure as hell did not sound that way to us. We told him and his lawyer that we would discuss it with our family and get back to him in a few days with our decision. In the meantime, with heavy hearts and lighter pockets, we left him with his lawyer and returned to his house. We had decided the best way to proceed in the best interest of our involvement. We also sought the advice of another lawyer. After explaining our problem to him, he assured us that everything was going to be all right. In fact, he was going to set up a meeting between Quadjo and another upstanding member in the community who would make certain that our brother Quadjo kept his part of the bargain. The meeting went well and assurances were again given. Then our lawyer advised us to give Quadjo the balance of the money and he could finish our house, plus a few of the things that we were supposed to get, like terrazzo floors, red tile roof, and stone facing on the house. Everything else was to remain the same. Were we supposed to be pleased? Whose side was he on anyway? This was a real ripoff, to say the least. But we went along with it. What else could we do? The amended contract was signed. and witnessed by two chiefs who acted as witnesses for both sides, Kwajo, his lawyer, and us. We had paid in full for our house, and now we had to wait and pray. When we turned that $6,500 over to Kwajo, the money suddenly got wings. And I looked at that money as it just flew away, like a bird, just never to be seen again. Welcome home. We were supposed to be pleased. Whose side was this man on? We immediately began to move our possessions out of Kwajo's house, taking them to our village and keeping them in another friend's home. We finally got everything out and settled into that little room in the village with Bongo and Mama D. At least we were all together. I had to admit to Mama D that she had been correct. She recognized what we could not see. The vibe was not right, but we had not paid serious heed to that. And as if we did not have enough on our plate, shortly after we moved in with Bongo, he took sick again and had to be admitted to Central Hospital for an emergency hernia operation. I came down with malaria again and had to be hospitalized also. Nana, can I leave you with us for a couple of days? The doctor advised, acting like he was glad to see us again. I really didn't want to stay, but as bad as I was feeling, I would have stayed in the middle of the jungle with a cheetah if it would make me feel any better. The following day, Mama D was admitted to the same hospital. In this case, misery was not enjoying company. The doctor joked and said she was in sympathy with me. Sympathy or not, Mama D and I both felt like hell. Thank God Nana stayed well, but brother, was he ever busy, running up and down between two hospitals, bringing food for us because meals were not provided by the hospital other than a cup of tea and a piece of bread. That was all you received. The hospital didn't even supply the medication. Your family was responsible for buying it and bringing it to the hospital. Nana had to do it all. In the meantime, just before Christmas, or Xmas, as it is called here, an uncompleted house in the village became available for us. On Christmas Eve, Nana brought Mama D and I home from the hospital. On our way to the village, we stopped at the hospital to visit Bongo, only to find him fully dressed and standing at the front door of the hospital, ready to go home. Did the doctor release you? We asked him, happy to see him up and around. Me not need no doctor to tell me from how me feel, and I when I can go. I find star, and me want go home, he said. I released myself. The doctor walked up while we were standing there and asked Bongo if he had been discharged, and we all started laughing. Thank you for everything, Dr. Bongo said, but I discharged myself. The doctor himself started to laugh and offered no argument to that, only remarking that, Mr. Morrison, you're a remarkable patient. I wish all of my patients were like you. For Bongo had gotten up the day after his surgery and had been visiting the other patients, offering them words of encouragement and singing inspirational songs to them. With no further ado, the doctor finally discharged Bongo, and we all went home to our new home in Itri. It was a 3-bedroom house. It had windows and doors, but needed screens for the windows. There was running water, but no toilet, so we all used buckets. We agreed to take the house and make a few repairs, dig a cesspool, and paint the inside of the house in exchange for rent. Not having any furniture, we hung our hammocks in our respective bedrooms, and there we stayed until our house was finished. Or at least, that was the plan. The peace, quiet, and serenity of village living, surrounded by lush green trees and foliage, set into motion the healing of wounded souls. But returning home ain't easy. On our return, we found that we had a new set of challenges to face. That of the returnee or pioneer. Language barriers, differences in culture, sickness like malaria, dysentery, worms, and the lack of convenience that we took for granted in the United States. We had to reacclimate ourselves to the difference in the seasons, the go-slow attitude of our people like the southern states in America. But the hardest of all was the perception by many Ghanaians of us as Obruni, white man or foreigner. But even with all of this, it was still a blessing and a challenge to be home. On Christmas Day, some of our new friends that we had met, Brother David and his Ghanaian wife, Sister Milka, who had been living in Ghana for several years, and Mama Lena and Maju, 2 sisters who had relocated from Detroit, surprised us with a village to celebrate our first Kwanzaa together. They had come to spend a few days. We didn't have any real accommodations, we told them. The best we can offer you are some sleeping bags on the floor. And that was fine with them. We're with family, and family is as family does, Brother David cracked, making everyone laugh. He's a real comedian. Nana and Bongo agreed to give the sisters the hammocks, and the guys crashed on the floor. We had a wonderful time eating and drinking and dancing and laughing and cutting up like only we can do. And we spoke of plans for our respective futures. It was great being with folks who had made the same move. We weren't the only ones who had lost our minds, as we had been told by folks in America when we said we were going to go to Africa to live. And we had so much in common. In fact, it was the best Kwanzaa we ever celebrated in the true sense of unity, collective work, and responsibility. Several days later, our friends returned to Accra. With the holiday season behind us, it was time to get back down to business. Getting our house built. Our present residence was for a 6-month period, and the owner would return to Ghana at that time. It was good to be home, and I meant that in every sense of the word. We lived in a small village, shopped at the local market, and bartered for items like everyone else. I always dressed in my traditional garments, but folks still looked at me curiously. I was a constant reminder to them that I was not a tourist, but a returned African descendant, a distant family member, desirous of living among them at home. However, there were those who insisted that I would always look like a tourist. When I inquired as to the reason they felt that way, one sister pointed to my locks and said, "We don't wear our hair like that in Ghana. Most women wear their hair like this," pointing to her own hair, which was permed. "If you want to be a beautiful African woman, you have to get a kit." "A what?" I said. "A kit," she repeated. Then it dawned on me. "A jerry curl kit?" I asked. Would I really look less like a tourist if I had a jerry curl or permed my hair? "Oh, yes, then you would be more like us," she said. "Thanks, but no thanks," I said to her. "This is mine with no help from anyone other than the Creator." "It is okay. Mina business, my sister," she laughed. "Akwaba, you are welcome home." "Midasi pa. Thank you very much," I responded, and everyone standing nearby started laughing. It wasn't ridicule, but I guess I did sound a little funny to them. After all, my intonation still had that New York twang. What was even more amazing was little children who could barely walk or talk call me O'Bruni, foreigner, white man, from their mothers' backs where they were being carried. I was constantly reminding people that I was Bibini, an African, a black person. "But you sound like the white man," they say. "Well, what do you expect? I have been in the white man's country too long," I responded, and they would just laugh again and call me sister. It was still good to be home. Another person approached me for some weed, marijuana. "What makes you think that I have weed?" I asked. "Everyone know that Rastas smoke weed," she said. "Oh, really? Who told you that I'm a Rasta?" "You have Rasta hair, so you are Rasta," she replied with a serious face. Case closed.